Well, let's come back to order. We're waiting on the jury has not returned, but before they got a little delayed, so we're going to have to be at ease for a few minutes. But I want to come back on the record so we could deal with any issues as far as the reading of the depositions. Does the state have any issues that want us to take up?
Yes, Your Honor. There's a question. This was a testimony that was taken before the court, which is unusual in the deposition because the court is not present. And it might be a good idea to get some direction as to, like when it comes up to the point where the court, when Mr. Goff says, for example, on page 8, okay, one moment, Your Honor, brief pause, and then he says, we'd like to pause the deposition. I'm going to go into the materiality issue. Is that going to be read in? Or do we then skip to...
Your Honor, from page 8 to page 14 at line 12, there's a discussion of materiality. That's clearly not relevant. The jury doesn't get to decide that. The court's already done that. There's also one objection at page 19, lines 4 to 12. The court clarified as to what we would be objected to and what we didn't. There's no reason to go into those 8 lines. Other than that, those are the two things that we see, and we just want to ask about those lines.
But you don't want to talk about... Does Mr. Goff want to talk about travel plans? Is he saying to exclude
what page and line are you referring to, Mr. Economo?
Okay, let's get to page 9. Let's look at the top of page 9.
What are Mr. Van Eden's...
It says cross-examination, line 2.
Mr. Van Eden's travel plans are irrelevant to the issues before this jury, Your Honor. They were relevant to the issue of materiality at the time, and it was for that purpose expressly on the record that they were tendered. The jury doesn't get to decide whether or not this witness had a good reason to be here or not be here. The court's already done that. Nor does Mr. Economo need to use that as a pretext to get in the emotional trauma to this person who came up on the crime scene afterwards. Clearly, that's simply clearly inflammatory and prejudicial.
Your Honor, I am not the one offering this testimony. He says, I'm trying to get in something. I'm trying to keep it out, but the court...
Sounds like y'all are agreeing, but not... I mean...
I'm just... he doesn't need to get agitated. Okay. I'm just trying to ask what portions of this is he intending or would he like to have read into the record? That's all I want to know.
Let's repeat for the record what you just said earlier.
Your Honor, we're going to exclude the materiality discussion that begins on page 8 and ends on page 14 at line 12. And we're going to exclude lines 4 to 12 on page 19.
Hold on. Way too fast, Mr. Goff.
I can't go that. I just can't go that fast. I'm from Jeff Davis County, and we just don't talk that fast.
Page 8 at brief pause.
Page?
Yes.
Yes.
What page?
Page 8.
Page 8 at...
where it says brief pause. And that would be line 12, where it says brief pause, to page 14 at line 12. Hold on.
That's in the middle of the
line 14, I think it is. No. My apologies, Your Honor. Where's mine? Let me get page 14, line 12. That looks like I'm looking at the wrong page number there, Your Honor. It is page 14, page 8 from the brief pause through page 14. I'm sorry, that's going to be page... we're still going through page 15.
No, this isn't.
No, what page? Okay, it is page 15, line 12.
All right, so if I can understand, where does Mr. Goff propose to stop on page 13 and 14.
No, we propose to stop on page 15, Your Honor.
So the examination, the cross-examination by Ms. Stewart that begins on page 14 will be read.
Yes. No, the cross-examination begins on page 14, but the first question that we will go to is on page 15. Line 14. Rather, line 12. I'm going to now move you to March 21st, okay?
Go ahead, Your Honor, if he may just continue.
And that's Miss Hooray. The only other area is page 19, lines 4 through 12. Hold on. That's wrong. I don't know why the pagination's different that I'm looking at. It would be yes, it's page 19, Your Honor, and it's lines 4 through 20.
14 through 20.
Okay, 14 through 20
Is excluded,
is excluded.
okay?
That's it.
And then all the remainder, Your Honor, is that correct? Would be read into the record, including Mr. Goff's redirect?
And do you, Ms. Hooray, wish to, when it gets time for her,
Yes.
would she like to read her question?
Yes, she would.
Who's going to pretend to be Mr., I don't know how you say his name.
Van Eden?
Van
Bearden?
Eden. That will be Miss Wood?
No,
That's
that
going
would
to be
be
Mr.
Mr.
Lockwood.
Oh, Mr. Lockwood, can you do the South African accent?
South Georgia, not South.
Well, what is he going to read both? He is going to be the witness. He's going to
gonna
be the
be the-
pretend witness all the way through?
I think that's what we said, you're going to be, we need to be consistent. So, like we would in a civil trial, one person is going to be, you're going to be the witness, and then who's going to be the,
Miss Wood will be asking the questions.
okay? And Ms. Hooray will ask the questions that she asked.
Now, Your Honor, one other thing. Excluded from Mr. Goff's proposal is the reason for the absence of the witness. Now, in this trial, every witness who has testified so far has testified in person, has been subject to cross-examination, and the witnesses can see their demeanor. I understand the court's ruling. I'm not disputing that at all. The court has ruled. But I think it would be appropriate for the jury to know why this witness is not here and is being treated differently from every other witness in
In
the
a
case.
civil case, I generally tell the jury that they have, that, evidence can come in the form of deposition. The court has allowed this witness who out of state to have his deposition taken. You should give it the same full effect as if he were here.
As long as there's some...
You wish to add or take away from anything from that? But that's generally
No,
what I
think-
tell in a civil
understand.
case.
I have no problem with that, but I just think it would be appropriate that the jury understand why the witness is not testifying in person.
And I will, and my law clerk, just in the charge that I have prepared for the jury, I reiterate that.
Okay.
But I do think that I will explain to them that this is a deposition, that
That's fine.
sworn statement.
Your Honor, we have several witness issues that we'd like to address with the court before we start up again.
Okay, the jury I've been notified they are back, so I'm sure they'll need just a second, but we'll go ahead and,
Your Honor, we're hoping to try and close the evidence tomorrow. And to do that, it's helpful to address a couple issues. Attorney Kimberly Copeland has advised my office, notwithstanding her lawful subpoena, after I think she was subpoenaed twice, that she's not coming back to court unless we fly her up here. I know of no provision under Georgia law why Ms. Copeland is entitled to special treatment. We are asking the court to enter an order for the sheriff to pick up Ms. Copeland and deliver her to the courthouse so that trial is not delayed tomorrow. Or if Your Honor knows of some other way to secure a testimony that's less draconian, that's fine. But what I don't want is to show up tomorrow morning and Ms. Copeland not be here, and then us being in the position of trying to push the evidence into Friday or Tuesday of next week because Ms. Copeland can't be found. She has alerted us that she doesn't intend to comply with her subpoena, and we are now on Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock. We are invoking the court's powers to compel her attendance. She has not filed a motion to quash.
What is the purpose of Ms. Copeland? Can you give the court some inquiry of why we're going to have her, that she would be relevant in the guilt or innocence of this case?
I can. She's not here, but I can, Your Honor. We sent her a subpoena for her records on her attorney's fees. She was paid $23,000 in cash to represent Mr. Lang. And we don't believe there's a lawful source of those funds.
Okay. Well, I mean, but how is that? Okay. I guess I'll have to do some research. Was that relevant in this case? What a co-defendant pays his account?
Donna, I would like on behalf of the state to ask, because the state has an interest in concluding the case as expeditiously as possible, but I don't know if that's a proffer, and I take it that is a proffer of what this witness would testify to. I would like to know how in the world what she was paid and what the source of what she was paid to represent Dominique Lang has to do in any way, as far as relevance goes, to the guilt or innocence of Mr. Elkins and Karima Elkins. I can't possibly fathom where that would have anything to do with the guilt or innocence of those two defendants.
Your Honor, somebody else is paying for Mr. Lang's legal fees, and the manner of the payment is unusual. Most of us don't have $23,000 in cash. Now, Ms. Copeland has her own speculation as to how the money was raised, but that's hearsay to begin with. And second of all, it's still, ultimately, if her fees are relevant, how they got paid.
The court's concerned is the court's going to spend a lot of money getting Ms. Copeland back up here. The court will spend all the money it needs to get her up here to be a witness. But I don't want to do it, and then we get through. And we're going.
Okay.
And all of a sudden I rule, well, this isn't relevant, and I've just wasted a lot of the taxpayers' money getting her up here.
Great, Your Honor. The evidence,
not to mention, she's an attorney and charges by the hour.
The evidence supports the inference that other people were involved in the killing besides my client. And the fact that other people are paying for a co-defendant's legal fees is highly relevant. And that's not the only reason we need her testimony, Your Honor. We also need her testimony because it is contention of the defense that there is a deal that the state continues to refuse to disclose with Dominique Lang for his testimony, otherwise known in the trade as the wink-wink, nod-nod deal. And for the court reporter's benefit, that's W-I-N-K, W-I-N-K-N-O-D. N-O-D. And everyone in the criminal defense bar knows what a wink-wink, nod-nod deal. It's our contention that Dominique Lang has one, and we're entitled to explore that with a lawyer, Your Honor. And she can get up there and she can deny it, and then we're going to go through the circumstances of her representation, which suggests that either she's the most incompetent lawyer in the history of Georgia, or she's got a deal for her client that she's not disclosing.
Now, she's already stated on the record as an officer of the court that she has no deal. I guess I want to know where you want to put her up that she was paid $23,000 to represent her client
in cash.
Okay. First off, I'm assuming that she stated on the record already, I think, that she was paid a certain amount of money. Did she not?
My recollection is she did, Your Honor.
But
not in the presence.
And the source of those funds, I'm sitting there, what's going through my mind now was all the U.S. Supreme Court opinions dealing with drug trafficking cases where the government was trying to get after the source of funds for representing drug dealers. Now, I don't remember a body of law, but I think it's fairly.
The law is clear, Your Honor. There's no privilege in attorney's fee information, none whatsoever. It's not privileged information. No privilege applies. Now, when Dominique Lang gets up there on the witness stand and gives the incredible testimony where we're supposed to believe that he's just going to confess to accept a mandatory life sentence without having any kind of deal with the state, the jury's going to have to decide whether they believe that testimony. And if Ms. Copeland wants to say that she doesn't have a deal when she's filed one motion on behalf of her client over the last 4 months, waiving all kinds of privileges and protections she has, I think a jury is entitled to infer from her absolute failure to mount any kind of defense for Dominique Lang whatsoever that she has a deal in her pocket, Your Honor. And that is a constitutional confrontation clause issue.
Is he still going? I'm sorry. I thought he was finished.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I think
I
that...
apologize.
No, I apologize to Mr. Conway. I certainly want to give an opportunity to address the court.
Is he done?
Mr. Conway?
It is not a confrontation issue. It is a Brady issue. And we've been through this. I made the statement, and I make it again, that the government, the state, has no deal with Dominic Lang in connection with and exchange for his testimony. Ms. Copeland has said the same thing. If that turns out not to be true someday down the road, we know the consequences of that under Brady. But there is no confrontational right under the Sixth Amendment to ask beyond the representation that is made by the government, in this case the state, with regard to deals with witnesses that are called. There isn't. It's over once I make that announcement. And that announcement has been confirmed by the defense attorney. That's number one. Number two is the issue of the fees. If there was a question of the fees that impacted upon the bias of the client who testified, the time to have asked that question would have been of Mr. Lang when he testified. Isn't it true that your lawyer was paid this kind of money, and isn't it true that it came from this source, and isn't it true that that has colored and biased your testimony against my client, and so forth. It is not unless Mr. Goff is a forfeiture lawyer for the state or the government, his business to inquire about the source of Ms. Copeland's fees. We're not here today to talk about the forfeiture of her fees because they came from drug traffic or any other illicit source. And I'm saying now, Your Honor, that I think the prudent thing to do is, having heard the defense's proffer of what they hope to elicit from the witness, that is the deal issue and the issue of the payment of the money, that I would submit, and my objection to that it would be appropriate for the court, after it has considered it, to make a ruling that that proffer is rejected. You can put the proffer on the record, but that the testimony is rejected and that the witness need not appear, so that we can move on in the case. And I would ask that the court do that.
Do you think that I've never had a defendant want to put up a co-defendant's attorney to verify whether or not they have a deal or not?
I have never heard that, and I have been doing this for almost 4 decades. We have made the representation. She has made it. It's on the record. He has preserved, the defense lawyer has preserved whatever Brady claim he may subsequently have, if it develops either on habeas or some other proceeding, that wasn't the case. It ends there.
Goff, I mean, you could, other than, if we brought her all the way back up here, she would say, we have no deal. I mean, you couldn't question her on why they don't have a deal. I mean, where would you...
I'm going to cross-examine her about the motions that she filed or the lack thereof, all the deadlines that she missed.
An attorney's strategy on how they defend their client would not be relevant in this case, would it?
Your Honor, let me begin by saying that while we're all honorable gentlemen here, our Constitution does not depend. Our Constitution does not depend on the truthfulness of the government. It depends on the defendant's ability to exercise his constitutional rights, including confrontation. Mr. Economo's representation and Ms. Copeland's representations outside the presence of the jury are not a substitute for that same information in front of the jury. Nor is Mr. Elkins nor the jury required to accept the representations of any witness. It is for the jury, as the judges of the facts, to decide whether they believe those representations, Your Honor. And we are entitled to call her. As for the inconvenience, I had suggested to Ms. Copeland that she speak with the prosecutors. We would have been happy to let them call her out of turn the same day that Mr. Lang testified. She and they apparently elected not to do that. So if there's some inconvenience...
You've known about this issue for a long time. Do you have a case that you can cite to the court that would give the court some guidance in
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, let me have it.
Carrillo v. Perkins, Carrillo v. Perkins, 723 F. 2nd, 1165, Texas, 5th Circuit, 1984. 723 F. 2nd, 1165. 5th Circuit, 1984.
Okay, I'll read it on the break, and we'll come back to this issue. All right, what's the,
Your Honor, we also have a similar issue. I'm not sure, but I don't think we've received confirmation from Jonathan Miller. He has? He'll be here? Okay. Mr. Miller will be here in the morning, Your Honor. We have a priest penitent or clergyman penitent privilege issue with respect to one of the witnesses we intended to call this afternoon. I'm advising Your Honor of that for scheduling purposes.
well, we can't,
Court will know that.
well, how's that help me with scheduling? I mean, we need to,
Well, I was going to
that's going to
suggest,
have, any privilege issues have to be addressed outside the presence of a jury.
I was going to suggest that we address that issue at the conclusion of the day's testimony with that witness. That would be Reverend Culpepper. There also, Your Honor, we have two witnesses who are here this morning, Sandra Hallboy and Angela Carter, with respect to statements made by Louis Santiago. Obviously, we would want to address any objections that the state might have as to the admissibility of their testimony before we called Mr. Santiago rather than after. So what we would like to do today at the conclusion of the jury's testimony is to address the admissibility of theirs as well, so that when we get back here in the morning, we've got those issues addressed.
Do we have some witnesses we can call today, Judge, without all these issues and trying to push them down the road?
I think we called more issues this morning than the state did in the first 3 days of the trial.
Who are we calling? We're going to bring the jury in.
Your Honor, we have the deposition testimony of Sam Van Needen. We have the testimony of Miss Anderson. And then we're going to play the tape, item 170, states 45, as we discussed before lunch. That should bring us to around 4:30. And then we have the testimony of Ray Murat and Jennifer Krause and Mark Amick, the two MTs and a nurse. Their testimony is all quick, and we'll hopefully be able to get them on the road to end the day. That's what we're looking at.
Can we get them up before we play this video? I mean, is there some reason we need to wait on them?
You know, we've been trying to play this video now for 3.5 days. We think it's time.
Well,
And while we appreciate the state's interest in helping us present our case, we believe that this is the time to present it.
those witnesses who are from Glenn County, we'll stay until we get them done, though.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, let's all rise to the jury.
All rise to the jury.
I have it.
Here.
Class is the same.
Can you handle this? Got it.
I don't think so. I mean,
No, I just, where they
But I wonder if that 2D.
ending and not ending.
These video stuff. I just need to follow this guy.
Okay.
If you need to do something with them. It's very small.
Be seated, please.
Call. The
Yes,
next
Your Honor.
witness that you wish to call.
Your Honor, the next witness is Sam Van Eden.
Ladies and gentlemen, the defense is called Sam Van Eden. The law allows for testimony under circumstances to be taken by way of a deposition. In this case, I charge at this time that this sworn statement of Mr. Van Eden is to be, it'll be read to you with the attorneys. It's to be just like if he were here. Okay. All right. Work on their
Pace.
pace.
clearly?
Slowly.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Van Eden, where do you currently reside,
812 Albany Street,
and how long have you lived there?
2 years.
All right. If you don't mind my asking, approximately how old are you?
54,
And where were you born, sir?
South Africa.
All right. And you came to the United States. Do you recall what year?
1983.
All right. Do you have some formal education? You went to school in South Africa.
Yes, I went to college.
Okay. Which college was that?
Elsenburg Agricultural College in Stellenbosch.
All right. Did you receive a 4-year degree?
No, it's a 2-year agricultural diploma.
Very good. And that's your background, initially your background was in agriculture.
Yes,
All right. Let me ask you this. Do you have some kind of military background?
yes,
All right. And I'm not going to inquire into many details, but is it fair to say you're familiar with firearms and gunfire?
yes,
All right. Now, I promised you previously I wasn't going to show you any pictures today, and I won't do that. If at any time anything that I'm doing up here becomes an issue for you, you don't hesitate to say so, okay? I don't want to make this any more difficult than it has to be.
okay,
What I'm going to do is I'm going to review with you our understanding of what you reported to the police officer on the day in question, okay?
okay,
And that's it, all right? Do you remember the day of the shooting?
yes,
All right. Do you remember talking to a uniformed police officer?
yes,
All right. Did you tell him that you were riding your bicycle that day?
yes,
All right. You indicated you were riding your bicycle northbound on Ellis Street.
that's correct.
All right. Now to be clear, the 800 block of Albany Street, there's a cross street there. Do you recall the name of that cross street?
Yes, Prince.
Prince Street. And you started out from your house and you went down Prince Street.
That's correct.
And that would be westbound on Prince Street.
That's correct.
All right. And you had a dog that you were training, I believe you indicated.
That's correct.
And he was with you. And you turned onto Ellis Street at that point going north.
That's correct.
All right. And you indicated that you saw a white female with a stroller in front of you.
That's correct.
All right. And she was also traveling north?
I don't know what way she was traveling. As I turned right onto Ellis and I looked up, I saw a female at the other end of that block, which would have been the end of London. I can't recall if she was, I can't say she was turning north or she was turning south. But being that that the stroller stood out in my mind, she must have been sideways at that point, the stroller made such a strong point on me.
All right. Is it possible you assumed when you were talking to the officer that she was going north?
Yes.
Okay. And you were how far behind?
Well, it would have been basically a full block.
All right. If you previously had said 3/4 of a block, could that be true?
Not when I noticed her.
Okay. All right. And after she turned the corner, do you remember hearing something?
Turned the corner, and as I recall, I heard voices. I thought, what went in my head was, oh no, not a domestic argument, or something was going on that I have to run into.
Okay. Do you recall describing the sounds you heard to the police officer as a pop?
Yes, I heard a pop, thinking firecracker pop sound.
Sir, if the police officer recalled you said that it sounded like a small caliber gun,
That could be what I remember. I just remember that I kind of thought it must have been pretty small because I thought firecracker.
Or a small caliber gun.
Yeah, or a small caliber gun.
Right. And if the officer reported that you said a small caliber gun, you're not saying he was incorrect.
No.
Okay. Did you then hear another noise?
Then I heard, after that pop, it sounded more like hysterical.
Okay. Would you describe that as screaming? Is that another way to describe what you're describing?
Crying, screaming.
All right. And at that point, you came around. What did you do after you heard the scream?
I kept on going northbound. Like I say, I had a big dog that I was training to ride with me on the bicycle. So I was paying a lot of attention to him. And then, as I came up next to the blue house on the southwest corner of London and Ellis, I saw a lady on the path to the front door. And I also saw a lady then came out from the house of the next, and she was walking to the street on her phone, and I was looking at this, and this lady informed me, asked me for help. Somebody shot her baby.
All right. Did you make a call to 911 at that time?
Yes.
All right. I'm not going to ask you anything else about what you saw at the gate there, okay?
Okay.
But I do have 2 or 3 follow-up questions. As you were walking up Ellis Street, would it be fair to say that you had a clear line of sight up Ellis Street? Was unobstructed?
Yes.
All right. Did you see anyone shoot a firearm on Ellis Street?
No.
Okay. Did you see any other people walking up the street with you or in front of you, between yourself and Mrs. West?
No.
Did you see any other people coming down Ellis Street from the opposite direction while you were walking up?
No.
Okay. Did you see anyone running across the street after you heard the pop or after you heard what you thought was a domestic argument?
No.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor. Page 15, line 12. I'm going to now move you to March 21st, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to take you back to that day. You spoke to a couple of officers that day, correct?
Yes.
The first one you talked to was Officer Birch, I do believe. Is that correct?
I can't remember what.
You don't remember names? Okay. You were on your bike?
That's correct.
Okay. And you had your dog with you?
Yes.
So you were maneuvering a bike and a dog?
Yeah. The dog was on a leash on my right-hand side.
All right. I think you testified that you were a block behind Miss West or a block behind the lady with the stroller.
That's correct.
Okay. And you heard a pop, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you testified that you had a military background. So when you say a pop, you mean?
It wasn't an AK-47. It wasn't a 9mm. It wasn't a .38 Special. Or it wasn't a powerful gun.
So if we're going smaller in your military background, would you say a .22?
That's what I said. That's what I believed it was.
When you spoke to the other officer, Officer Garrett, I think you spoke to him inside your house?
That's correct. Those 2 officers that came to the scene.
Okay, yes, Deputy Trawick and Officer Garrett. You told them that you were looking at something in a garage or shed or
Yeah, I was.
a plant?
I'm a gardener. So I was riding on the road, my bicycle, dog's on the right-hand side, so I'm making sure the dog doesn't cross the road, and I'm looking to see what's flowering to get an idea what to plant and things like this. I remember the wisteria was blooming. And so at that point, I was driving past one of those houses that's abandoned, houses or empty lots, and I was looking in to see what's blooming or whatever.
Okay, so is it safe to say you weren't looking straight ahead the whole time?
No,
And in fact, you had your attention diverted by your bicycle, your dog, and this shed with the plants over to your side?
yeah,
Okay. Just one second. You said you heard the pop, and then you heard a woman screaming, correct?
yes.
Okay. At what point did you see that woman that was screaming?
Well, I was about from where she was standing. I couldn't see her until I was pretty much right next to the house or towards the front part of that house before I could see her.
Okay, which house is this?
The blue house that belonged to the gentleman that works at Fletsy. I don't know his name.
Okay, is that what corner of...
It'll be southwest corner of London and Ellis.
Okay, and I hate to make you do this, but once you saw the lady, what did the lady look like?
It looked like a mother that was crying and was looking for help.
Do you remember what she was wearing?
I know she had shorts on, I think. That's all. I think so. I can't remember. I don't know what she was wearing.
And you said she was crying?
Yes.
Are you talking a little crying, hysterical crying? What kind of crying would you classify that as?
It was crying, and it was just, she was saying, help me, help, please somebody, please help me. Somebody shot my baby. Somebody shot my baby. And I said, what? And she said, somebody shot my baby. And I looked to see if it's an argument going on with her husband, or like another person was there, to see where is the gun. The gunman was, and that's when the other lady came out, and that's when I took my phone and phoned yes, she was in some degree of hysterics. I did misread one line, and I corrected it.
Did you see anybody with a gun?
No,
Did you see Sherry West with a gun, or did you see the lady with a gun, the lady with the baby? Did she have a gun?
no,
Okay. Did you see the shooting?
no,
Prior to getting to her, prior to you hearing the gunshot, while your attention was diverted, is it possible that somebody else was there that could have shot her and the baby that you missed while your attention was diverted?
yeah, there could. There could have been people that I couldn't even see.
You mentioned hearing arguing before. Was that before you heard the pop?
Yes,
Okay. Were you able to identify any of those voices once you were to where the lady with the stroller was?
what do you mean?
Were you able to pick out that, yes, it's this person or this person that was arguing?
No.
Okay.
There was a woman's voice, and there was another voice, a man's voice. It wasn't a woman's voice. It was, like I say, I thought there was a domestic argument going on.
Okay, and did you hear that coming from the direction of where the lady with the stroller had, in that direction?
Yes.
But you never saw who?
No, the house was between me and her, so
Which house? Is this the house that you went to look at the plant?
no, the blue house, the house on Ellis.
Okay, the house at the southwest corner
Yes,
of Ellis and London. Okay. And this argument you heard was just before the pop?
that's correct.
Okay, you said you heard a woman's voice and then how many other voices do you think you heard?
One voice.
The one other voice besides the woman's voice.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Could you tell what they were saying?
No.
So you just heard two voices,
Yes.
kind of muffled? Okay.
looking back at the demeanor of Sherry West and the lady with the baby, and what you saw once you arrived at the location where she was there anything that indicated to you that she had done something to the baby?
No.
Nothing further at this time.
We're almost done, Mr. Van Eden. We're almost done.
Okay.
Did you hear footsteps or did you hear running?
No.
Did you see anyone running up Ellis Street?
No.
And no one ran by you south?
No.
Okay. You never saw anyone running across Ellis Street?
No.
But you did discuss this with me once before, didn't you?
Yes.
Do you remember what direction you thought they might have been able to run in without your seeing them?
Yeah. To me, looking at, they would have run west on London. As I told you, it's a house on the corner of corner of Union and London without any fences, and you could have been gone within seconds.
If they had run west on London Street, you might not have been able to see them.
No.
Okay. Now, your best estimate, how long could it have taken you after you heard all that to get to the corner? Couldn't have been more than a few seconds, could it?
No. At most, I would say a minute or a couple of minutes, probably. I mean, my dog is it's a bulldog cross. It's not a fast runner. And so I was just riding my bicycle down the road, whatever it takes. I can't remember how long it would have taken.
Okay. And one of the women from the house across the street had already come across the street to help this woman, or were you the first one there?
No, I was at the point. What I remember is there was nobody in the street until this lady said, "Somebody shot my baby." And then I had the dog on the leash, and I was thinking of I've got to put the dog somewhere and the bicycle. And then that's when I noticed this other lady coming out of her house, or appear on the right-hand side, because I was concentrating on this lady. So this other lady was walking out, also on the phone.
All right. Now, I think I asked you this previously, but I want to make sure about it. Did you see any blood on Ellis Street?
No.
The blood that you saw was all on London Street, in front of the house, and on the sidewalk where the child was.
The blood putting it this way, when I arrived at the scene and the 911 operator asked me to look at the baby and see where the wound is, at that point there was just bile coming out of the kid's mouth and brain tissue was flowing out of the wound. And it had a little hood on, a little baby hood thing on. And while I was talking, right after I looked at the baby in the stroller to look to see where the wound was, and I was talking, I went back. Things happened so fast. I had a flip phone, so I flipped the phone shut. So I was about to phone again, and the other lady was totally hysterical at this point. And so she gave me her phone, and so I spoke to that 911 operator, and I told her that I told her where the bullet wound was, and she asked me, "Is the baby still breathing?" And I turned back to the mother, and I said, "What, the baby's still breathing?" And she said, "Yes, the baby's still breathing." At that point, she took the baby out of the stroller, and she put the baby down on the sidewalk and started mouth-to-mouth resuscitation right there. And that is where the blood came from, right where the baby was lying on the sidewalk.
I'm sorry you've had to describe it, but no one was shot on Ellis Street that day.
Not that I witnessed.
No further questions.
Call your next witness.
Next witness is Mrs. Anderson. Mrs. Anderson.
Around the witness stand, remain standing to be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you shall give the court and the jury on which you have been shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth and the truth?
I didn't.
Good afternoon. Would you please tell the jury your full name?
Kimberly Priester Anderson.
And Kimberly, where do you live?
I live at 710 George Street in Brunswick, Georgia.
Now, do you have any other family in Brunswick?
Yes, I do.
Well, before I get there, are you presently employed?
Yes.
Where do you work?
I work at Barber's Body Shop in Brunswick, Georgia.
And how long have you lived in Brunswick?
Most of my adult life, since I was about 20 years old.
You got family in Brunswick?
Yes, I do.
Do you know anyone who lives on London Street?
Yes, I do.
Who would that be?
My mother?
And are you familiar with your mother's house?
Yes.
That's located at 708 London Street?
No, she's at 810 London
I'm
Street.
sorry, 810 London Street.
Correct.
All right.
I'm sorry, 801 London. I'm at 710 George.
And do you spend time at her residence from time to time?
Yes.
Do you recall whether you were at her house on the day that there was a shooting?
Yes, sir, I was.
Do you remember whether that's March 21st?
Correct.
Do you recall whether you were at her house on that day?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall which room of the house you were in?
Yes, sir, I was in what is like the guest room upstairs.
Okay. Now, the police report refers to it being her daughter's bedroom, but that would be
That
you.
would be mine, yes.
Okay, and you stay there from time to time?
When I stay there, yes, that's my room.
Okay. Now, let the record reflect, I'm showing what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 42. Before I do that, let the record reflect, I'm showing Defendant State's 42 to the state. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
May.
Mr. Mark, the State's Exhibit 42 is an aerial photo of part of Brunswick, Georgia. Can you take a moment and review that?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen that photo before?
No, sir.
Okay, but you are familiar with the area?
Certainly.
Can you hold up that photograph or aerial photo to the jurors and point out your mother's residence in the picture?
It's the one with the terracotta colored roof.
Okay. Now, in terms of orientation, if I could borrow that photograph, aerial photo again. We're going to turn it this way if that's okay. Okay? Can you point out to the jury your mother's house?
This is my mother's house, and this is the bedroom that I was in upstairs on this side.
All right. And that is the house with the reddish roof on it?
Correct.
At the southeast corner of London and Ellis?
Correct.
All right. And you were in the bedroom
Yes.
at that time. Does that bedroom overlook the 800 block of Ellis Street?
It does not. It's on this side of the house. It's on the side with the porch. I was preparing to leave the house, and I was in that room upstairs.
Okay. And what did you hear?
I heard 3 gunshots, at which point I walked to this side of the house, which is my daughter's bedroom, and looked out of the window that's next to this tree here.
Okay. Now, your daughter's bedroom, point that out once again to the jury. Where is your daughter's bedroom?
On this side of the house, on the Ellis Street side of the house.
So your daughter's bedroom has a window that overlooks the 800 block of Ellis Street.
Correct.
Now, across Ellis Street, across the 800 block from your house, do you see a house that's of a different color and different roof style?
Yes, the blue house that's here on the corner.
And that's 708 London.
I'm not certain of the number of the address, but yes, it's London Street.
Okay. All right. Now, the window that's in your daughter's bedroom, is that a small window or is that a big window?
It's an average-sized bedroom window.
And I take it, is that a clear glass window or is it privacy glass?
It's clear glass, but it's paned.
Okay.
It's not a full glass.
Does it provide a clear view of Ellis Street?
Not completely, because there is a tree that grows right beside the house, the view is obstructed by the oak tree.
And you can see the foliage in the photo, can you not?
Correct.
All right. So you heard three pops?
Yes.
And would you describe them as being one right after the other or as being over an extended period of time? How would you describe them?
They weren't real consecutive, but they were very close together. It wasn't pow, pow, pow. It was, but within 30 seconds or so of.
All right. And so you went from the bedroom that you were in into your daughter's bedroom.
Correct.
You looked out the window onto Ellis Street.
Correct.
Clear day.
Yes. It's cold, but it was.
Did you see a woman in the street?
No.
Did you see a stroller in the street?
No.
Did you see a child?
No.
Did you see blood?
No, I saw nothing but just the street. I didn't see anything.
Did you see two young black men running?
No, I did not.
And at that point, you went down the stairs.
Correct. I was already preparing to leave the house
All right.
when I heard the shots.
From the time you heard the shots, well, let me back up. The bedroom that you were in, is it an average-sized bedroom?
A large bedroom.
All right. When you say a large bedroom, as large as this courtroom?
Certainly not.
Okay.
It's the master bedroom of the house, though, so it is the largest
About
bedroom
as
in
far
the house.
across the room as from you to me?
Correct.
All right. And then there's a hallway in between the bedrooms?
Yes, there's the upper level where the stairwell comes up. So,
And then there's your daughter's bedroom?
correct.
Your daughter's bedroom somewhat smaller?
Yes, sir.
How long could it have taken you to get to the window after you heard those pops?
10, 15 seconds, because I immediately went to the window. As I said, I was already preparing to leave the house, had my purse on my shoulder, was dressed, shoes, everything, so I went directly to the window, didn't see anything, and headed down the stairs.
And did you walk down the stairs or did you run down the stairs?
I ran down the stairs.
Out the front door?
Yes.
That took a couple more seconds?
Yes.
So at this point, we're talking about 5 or 6 seconds from the shots being fired at most?
Probably a little more. I mean, it's a big flight of stairs, but yeah, about 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds. I didn't hesitate. I went straight out the door.
All right. And when you went out the door, did you see a woman with blonde hair?
Yes.
You went out the door. Where was the woman at that time?
He was approaching the house, that's the blue house that's on the corner there, somewhat in the intersection, pushing up on the sidewalk, and I watched her push the stroller into the fenced yard of the house next door.
Okay. So you never saw her pushing the stroller up the 800 block of Ellis?
No, she was already, there in the intersection going into the fence line when I approached.
And at the time that you walked out, what was your understanding as to where the shooting took place?
Sustained objection.
You never saw anything take place on Ellis Street that day, did you?
No, sir.
All the activity that was out there, for example, let the record reflect, I'm showing what's marked as State's Exhibit 24 in the state. May I approach witness, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you a list of marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit 24. You were present in the early stages of the police investigation, were you not?
Yes, I was.
You present when they started marking off the crime scene?
By that time, actually, when they started putting the tape up, we were taken out of the area. So I wasn't present when they put these markers out, no, sir, but
Were you watching from across the street?
no, sir, we were interviewed by the police, and I immediately went down the street to my house.
Very well. Very well. Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness.
Ms. John? John, I can't hear you. If you step here to the podium. Thanks.
Ms. Anderson, you were staying with your mother or living with your mother at the time?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Do you have a house in the neighborhood yourself?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, 1 block down.
Okay. How long have you been in the neighborhood?
We've lived downtown off and on for 25 years.
By downtown, you mean downtown Brunswick?
South End Brunswick, yes, ma'am.
South End. How would you describe that area?
It's safe, quiet, pleasant place to live,
Do you know some of your neighbors?
certainly.
A lot of older homes in that area?
Certainly, yes.
Historical homes?
Mine was built in 1876, yes, ma'am.
Yours was built in 1876. Okay. Ms. Anderson, I want to take you back to where you first heard the 3 pops. And you said, I believe, that they were not real consecutive, but they were close in time. Is that right?
That's correct.
And when you say not real consecutive, what do you mean by that?
It was not pop, pop, pop. I mean, it wasn't like a very rapid succession. It was a little more spanned out. And it wasn't lengthy by any means, but it was not bam, bam, bam.
So there was some seconds, maybe?
There was a few seconds
Between the shots?
Between the shots, yes.
And what caused you concern? What did you think the pops were?
I knew that they were gunshots from a small caliber weapon.
And why did you feel like it was a small caliber weapon?
I used to fire pistols, and I know the difference in sound. And I stated that to the police that morning, that I thought it was a small caliber weapon.
And you indicated I'm going to show you the screen and ask you a couple of questions about this photograph Mr. Goff just showed you, Ms. Anderson. Are you familiar with this area, Ms. Anderson?
Yes, ma'am.
That appeared to be your parents' or your mom's house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were in a bedroom where? Is that?
The room where you just had your pen, where that screen porch is, upstairs. If you go back just a little bit, come this way, you can see the screen at the back of the house there. The screen porch is upstairs. That's the bedroom. Yes, and I went, and
Bedroom here?
I was in that bedroom when I heard the shots.
Okay. And what, that is facing the opposite side of Ellis Street, is that
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, and that's where you first heard the shots?
That's correct.
Bedroom over here?
I went directly to which is directly from one where that screen is in the back of the house to that side where the foliage is on the Ellis Street side.
Bedroom to this side over here?
That's correct. I looked out the window there where the foliage is.
You weren't able to see anything?
That's correct.
Didn't see a woman?
Didn't see anything.
Didn't see anything, okay. And you said your view is partially obstructed by that tree, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
The
So
tree
then
stands right outside that window.
Tree's right outside that oak tree?
Yes.
And you went down the stairs and the
Down the stairs and out the front door of the
front door
residence.
faces what street?
Faces London.
Out the front. And your mom, where was she?
He was standing right inside the front door downstairs.
Okay. And Did you tell your mom anything when you went down there?
I went outside past her, dropped my pocketbook and had some plants in my hands. Because as I said, I was preparing to walk out of the door. I dropped everything on the porch and ran to where this picture is,
Okay.
inside the gate.
And when you came out this front door,
Your
Correct.
Honor, I would object that the state keep pointing to the far side of the house when the witnesses are testifying to the side closest to Ellis Street.
Your Honor, I think the witness can direct me where to point, and I've got her on cross.
Overrule.
Ms. Anderson, will you tell me if I'm pointing in the wrong place? Okay. Tell me what street the front of that house faces.
It fronts, it's 802 London, it fronts on London. That's correct.
Front door of that house is on London Street,
That's correct.
and you came out the front on London.
Yes.
Okay. And when you came out the front on London, your mom was still at the door?
She was right inside of the doorway of the house. Yes, she was inside. After I went out, she came out on the porch, and
Did you say anything to your mom?
she asked if they had shot the dogs, and I said no, it was the baby, and for her to go back inside.
As you came out the front door, tell me where you were and what you first saw.
When I first came out the door, I saw her in the intersection pushing the stroller up into the fenced, correct, up into the fenced area in front of that house. That's
Okay,
correct.
this house I'm pointing at,
That's the house where she was.
circle, you see the little red circle here?
Yes,
Is that the inside fenced area you're speaking of?
yes. I saw her first originally in about right where your pin is, there, there in the exact, almost there. And she
John, make
pushed.
the witness come down, I want to make sure that
Yeah.
I'm doing this accurate. I don't want to
Please step down.
misstate anything. I'm going to let you point, Ms. Anderson, where you first saw her, if you would.
I first saw her approximately.
Microphone down to where she's.
Okay.
Saw her first approximately here in the intersection, and she went around this bush and pushed up into the area here where the stroller was. But she was somewhere around here. I was running from the front of the house here, and she pushed up in there, and by the time she got inside the fence, I was at the gate with her.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Ms. Anderson, did you see anyone else other than the lady with the stroller and the baby at that time?
Hold on, let her get back to the witness stand.
Oh, Judge, sorry.
All right, ma'am.
No, ma'am, I did not.
And what did you do did you make contact with her at some point?
The first thing, before I ever even left the porch at my mother's, I had my phone in my hand and was on the phone with the police.
Okay.
And I ran to the gate. By that time, there was a gentleman walking his dog, and he came up behind us, so it was the three of us there.
Do you know that gentleman's name?
I'm not certain of his name. He's one of our neighbors, but I'm not.
Is it maybe Mr. Van Eden?
That's his name, yes.
So did he get there before or after you?
I believe he was after me.
Okay. When you first saw the baby stroller and the lady with the blonde hair, where was the baby?
Baby was in the stroller.
See the baby while it was in the stroller?
I did.
Tell us what you saw.
Your Honor, objection to relevance.
Your Honor, how can he put a witness up that was first on scene and object to relevance of questions I'm asking her?
Are we going to show the jury another set of pictures of the dead
I've not
child?
shown anything, Your Honor, but I'm entitled to ask this witness what she saw.
She has his witness on cross.
Anderson, can you tell me what kind of condition the baby was in when you saw the baby?
My opinion, the baby was dead.
Okay. Did you see any injury on the baby?
Yes.
What did you see?
Bullet wound in his head.
And did you have an opportunity to observe the mother of the baby?
I did.
Can you tell us what her demeanor was at that time?
Was hysterical, and she took the child out of the stroller and put him on the ground and began to try to resuscitate him,
What specifically did she do to try to resuscitate the baby?
trying to give him mouth to mouth.
And where were you when this was going on?
On the inside of the gate, right there in the gateway, on the phone with the police.
And you were one of the first people to call 911?
Correct?
Did other neighbors come over?
Yes. Apparently, there was many 911 calls that day. I'm not certain who was who.
Were there other people that came on scene and tried to help the baby?
Mr.
Van Eden?
Mr. Van Eden was trying to aid her, and he took my phone and told the police that there was no signs of life.
Was there a reason why you gave him your phone?
She was asking questions. I was trying to ask him questions, and I think there was a language barrier.
He speaks with an accent?
Correct.
Did Miss West, or the mother of the baby you saw there, did she say anything?
She, when I first came out of the house, was screaming, "They shot my baby, they shot my baby." And then when she got the baby out of the stroller and his lungs froze, and she said, "He's breathing." And she tried to resuscitate him.
Did you see a gun anywhere there at the scene that day?
Ma'am, I did not.
Other than Miss West, or the mother and the baby in the stroller, did you see anyone else there that day?
No, ma'am.
McIlvain?
No questions.
All right. Can you redirect?
So when you just said that you didn't see anyone, you certainly didn't see two young black men running or walking.
No, I did not.
Ma'am, you've testified you were upstairs in your bedroom on the far side of the house when you heard the first shot. Is that when you started down the stairs?
I first went to my daughter's room and looked out of the window, and then started down the stairs.
So you started towards your daughter's room when you heard the first shot?
Yes.
And by the time you heard the third shot, were you on the stairs, or were you still in
All
your
of the
daughter's
shots had
room?
been fired by the time I looked out of the window.
Okay, so all three shots had been fired in the time it took you to walk across the one bedroom and to the window of the other.
That's correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Anything further? All right. May this witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
Or excused.
Ma'am, would you spell your middle name for me? Your middle name and stuff?
Well, Priester, Priester. Ster.
Call your next witness.
Your Honor, this time it's time to play the videotape. Stage 45, I believe. You need about 30 seconds or so to set that up.
We hadn't been back in session, but since that's fairly lengthy, we'll go ahead and take a recess and come back in and finish it.
All right.